Can I please make one request of this podcast, though?
Mm-hmm.
We have not read a book that hasn't had a kidnapping.
When we get to the final episode of this, like, I've been calling the first season romance because we're going through the history of romance. I think our in conclusion will be like, the history of the romance genre is kidnapping. That is the moral of the story. Welcome to The Panelists, a bookish deep dive podcast where we take bookish genres and tropes and overanalyze them to the point that people think we hate reading, but at least we have fun doing it. My name is Jaysen.
My name is Niah.
My name is Marines.
And my name is Lizzy.
And welcome back to The Panelists. A little recap, if this is your first time here, I believe this is episode 4. Who knows anymore? And I think it's episode 4, right? I feel good about that.
I think it's
And-
5.
To be more, right?
5? That can't be right.
What if
Oh,
it's
you
6?
are, it is correct. You know
it
what's
is
funny
5.
is I have a thing on my screen in big bold letters that says episode 5, and reading is hard. Hey, welcome to episode 5. I hope you enjoyed episode 4. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Which is wild because it wasn't. It was
Because
actually
it
several
wasn't,
weeks
no.
ago.
So if this is your first time here, we were in a car at one point all together, and we said, hey, we would like to read through the history of romance books and possibly other genres in the future and do that together and talk about them. So we decided to make a podcast to do that. And that is what we're doing here. We've done 4, to be specific. We've done 3 romance books and a Wuthering Heights so far. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad we talked about Wuthering Heights because I still have people in my comments every single day. Well, it is a romance because it's so romantic. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
but I love
Seek
that
help.
you love love. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what it's like being so wrong.
Love is love. So great for that. So first of all, I want to put a little caveat on this episode, a little disclaimer. The book that we're going to be discussing today, which we'll get to in a moment, is called The Black Moth by Georgette Heyer. And we read this quite a while ago, but then as happens, the holidays happen, people get busy. And one thing that I really was committed to when we started this podcast was that it was always going to be like a fun time, just like a fun time for the 4 of us to hang out. So there was like no pressure. So we ended up having to push things back a little bit. So if it sounds like we don't know what we read, just know that we did read it. We just have bad memories. And those are 2 different problems. Those are 2. It's not that we're lying about reading. It's that our brains are slipping. And that is a whole different conundrum. But before we get into all of that, I would love to know, because I haven't seen these 3 wonderful humans for a while, I would love to know what you're reading. Are you reading anything right now good or that you want to chat about?
Good. Okay.
Are you reading anything that is readable that you'd like to chat about?
I actually finished the last book that I was reading today, and I think I might be in a reading slump actually, which is a conversation for another time. But it was called A Thorn in Every Heart, and it was like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast and Anastasia.
Mm.
Oh.
I'm thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
Because I just finished it. And so I feel like I'm just like, it was a book. That's all I can say for now.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's all I asked for. I asked if you'd
There you
read a
go.
book that had words in it. So, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I am in a huge reading slump. This is like probably the worst reading year of my adult life in terms of like quantity. And I've been trying like all year to muscle out of it. So it's not like I'm not reading. It's just taking me a long time to get through books. But the last thing that I finished was a nonfiction book called Empire of AI. And
Ooh.
it is fantastic. Every bro on Threads right now arguing about why they are an author, but they need AI actually. Like, I want to shove this book in their hands. And I think it is a really fantastic piece because it's actually just looking at OpenAI and Sam Altman, like from an investigative level of like how he made this company and what made it possible and who he is as a person. And at the same time, kind of addressing the arguments around AI. So like, truly have not stopped thinking about this book. Highly recommend to everybody.
Oh,
That sounds really
amazing.
good.
That
It
does.
is
I'm gonna
really
add
good.
that to my list. Can you send me
Do
the
it.
title again?
Yeah.
I will. I'll send it in chat. I'll send you my Amazon affiliate link.
Wow.
And if you purchase the book right here, you can get for a limited time only.
Actually, go ahead and link all the books.
I'm also in a reading slump. What? Surprise. I did read Tusk Love, which was the Critical Role romantasy
Ooh.
book that was very cutesy. And I read Tender is the Flesh today, which
Ooh, how did you like that?
If I don't even know how to put it into words because it's so not something that I don't read horror at all.
Yeah.
I've read like 2 horror books this year, and that was probably the most brutal book that I've ever read in my life.
It was, I felt physically ill while I
Yep,
was reading it.
I had to
Like,
go like outside and just be in nature for a second.
I thought it was great. It was a good, I was like, this is a good book, but I was also like, I would like to be able to eat in the next 24 hours, and I don't know if that's going to be possible, you know?
Well, that sounds horrible. I just want to mention all 3 of you were in a reading slump, and I think the common denominator is the Black Moth.
Black
So
Moth.
that's
What
I'm not
what
in a
have you
reading
read?
slump.
What have you
I've
read?
been reading so much. I feel like December is actually maybe the best reading month I've had all year, which is really
Sounds
cool.
a little braggadocious to me. But
It is. I am
I've been
bragging.
reading so much.
But like specifically 2 series I'm reading right now. One I really like, and one I'm like still very on the fence of. I'm reading this middle grade series called Skandar, is like the name of the series. So it's the first one is called Skandar and the Unicorn Thief. It's got that like magical school element where like a young boy goes to a magical school and has to like learn things and go to magical classes. But the whole kind of conceit of the story is that in this world, people find out that unicorns exist and they are like bloodthirsty, terrifying monsters, and the only thing that stops their like blood rage is by bonding with a human at birth. And so 13-year-olds are basically like tested and then brought to this island to bond with like birthing unicorns, but then they're also still wild unicorns. And the difference is wild unicorns live forever, and their immortality like drives them insane and makes them like super evil. And as much as I hate to compare books to this book, because I think there are other books out there, I think the closest comparison to this book is definitely Harry Potter. And this book to me has all the things that I loved about Harry Potter growing up, but obviously not by J.K. Rowling. And it also has a ton more representation. Like I'm in the 3rd book now, and there's like several queer characters. They just introduced a character that is using a wheelchair. Like it's just like so much more to it and so much more representation. It is a book that I think is a solid replacement for Harry Potter. Like I think it is a series that you could easily recommend to people of like, hey, you don't want to get your kids Harry Potter, like get them into this because it has all the things that people love about Harry Potter, but it also corrects all the things that are bad about Harry Potter. And I think that's really cool. And then I'm also reading through Earthsea, which is by Ursula K. Le Guin for the first time. I finished the 2nd book. I'm going to try and finish all 6 of them by the end of the month because they're not super long reads. They are so dry. Like I am struggling through, but they're really good. They have really cool concepts, but like writing wise, it's just like sandpaper, like that kind, like a desert of dry, like really dry writing. But they're important to the canon, so I'm trying to read through them, and we'll see how I feel when I'm done with them.
You're a better person than I am because I would DNF, and I have.
I think if it's like a one-off, I try DNF, but if it's something that I feel like, oh, I'm reading this for the purpose of understanding like the history of this genre a little bit more, I try to power through. Like I've been reading through the history of sci-fi, and there's definitely been some things in that where I'm like, I hate this, but I'm gonna soldier through because I'm committed to the cause.
I found the same thing with like the books that we've been reading for like, and I would have DNF'd Pamela, I would have DNF'd Wuthering Heights, like I would like maybe even Pride and Prejudice after that first chapter. I don't know. But I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
That's
I know.
That's a bit much.
Whoa.
I know.
I'm just joshing you.
Oh my gosh. So I am going to ask you guys what you thought of The Black Moth, but I think we maybe need a little refresher. We need to get into the headspace of this book a little bit. Let's start with, Mari, you're going to give us a brief history of The Black Moth and this book and this author and all those fun things. So I'm going to let you take it away.
I was looking at Niah because I was like, plot synopsis? It is in fact me first.
Nope.
He's like, can you jog my memory? No.
No. Okay, The Black Moth. Last time we talked, we were in 1847 with the Bronte sisters because Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights were both published the same year. We were in the thick of Victorian England, and now we are making a massive leap forward in time because we're going to 1921, sort of, because that's when this book was published, but it's also a historical romance. So it's 1921 and also the 18th century. So as of the publication, 74 years have passed since we last talked. The Victorian era is over. Queen Victoria died in 1901, and with her went this entire way of life. We are now post-World War I. It had just ended 3 years earlier, so Britain as a nation is, for lack of a better word, traumatized. The war has changed everything. There was an entire generation of young men who fought and died in the war. Women stepped into roles that they didn't traditionally have. So they were in factories, they were in offices, and they were trying to keep the country running during wartime. And things didn't go kind of quietly back to the way that it was beforehand, right? They weren't going to go back to being the angels in the house post the war. In 1918, British women over 30 who met certain qualifications won the right to vote. So when you think back to like what we were talking about in terms of like the heroines of like Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, right? We're really making a leap forward to where certain women are now in history.
I hope I don't sound ridiculous, but I didn't know that. It was over 30. I didn't know there was
Look at us learning.
I'm learning stuff.
Cut that out. Don't put that in there.
So culturally, the 1920s are just beginning. So, you know, when you think of the 1920s, the Jazz Age and flappers and modernism, and some of the like people who are writing in this time are T.S. Eliot and Virginia Woolf. So that's kind of where we are in the literary world. And like I said, it's kind of interesting, though, because in the middle of all of this, we have a 19-year-old girl named Georgette Heyer, and she sits down and she writes a romance novel set in 1751. So she's like, you know, we're thinking 1920s, we're thinking flappers, and she's like, I'm going to write a book set closer to Pamela, where we first started this entire journey. So that's kind of the difference there. Georgette herself was born in 1902 in London. Her father was a teacher, and so she grew up in a household that valued education and storytelling and was writing from a very young age, as we can tell, because she started writing this book when she was 17 years old. And when you read about this book online, everything is kind of like, but she was 17. That's so true, bestie. That is so true. She wrote it young. The story is that she wrote The Black Moth to entertain her younger brother when he was sick. And so she invented the brain off novel is kind of what...
How old was the brother?
I don't know. I didn't write it down. He was younger. I don't know if she invented the brain off novel, but that's kind of what it's giving, because everything is like she just wrote it to make her brother happy.
This actually makes so much more sense. Like the entire plot suddenly, okay.
Yeah. And she told it to him, right? Like, so she was like writing it and reciting it, which I think is also like a thing about the way that it's like written and structured, is that like, I don't know, it was like a spoken sort of thing. And she was just doing it to keep him happy. And her father was like, I think that's actually good enough to be published. So in 1921, when she was 19 years old, the Black Moth. Let a father be supportive. Damn it.
I didn't say anything.
So if we're going to throw blame at anybody, it's the dad.
It's the dad.
And there is blame to throw. But anyway.
So it was published when she was 19, and it found pretty good success at the time. Like, it was a pretty good commercial success. But more importantly, and I think we're going to talk about this because I think it's interesting that we actually started here with The Black Moth, because I don't think that you get a sense really for the fact that Georgette Heyer in like romance is like a big freaking deal. She essentially invented the Regency romance subgenre. But this is not a Regency romance. This is a Georgian romance. It's set during George II's reign. So this is like a departure from like the thing that she's actually known for. And we talked about like Jane Austen, who wrote, I think, 5 novels. We talked about Charlotte Bronte, who wrote one. Like, you know, people who wrote 1 or 2 novels or whatnot. Georgette Heyer wrote over 50 novels. And so she's like prolific. She's very, very important to the romance genre. We just picked her very first book that she started writing when she was 17 for her sick brother, which I think is interesting in the grand scheme of what we're doing. I'm making excuses for her because I was reading about her life and I was like, girl, I don't think we did you any favors with this one.
I have a controversial opinion.
I mean, I do think, sorry, not to interrupt, but I do think that when you look up information about the history of romance, The Black Moth is always the one that comes up because they're like, oh, it like created this like historical romance genre a little bit.
Yeah.
But yes, when I started talking about the fact that this was going to be the next book we read, so many people were like, oh, that is not her best work. Like, you should, this is the work when you should be reading. This is her best work. And I was like, well, it's fine. And as it turns out, it was not fine. Please continue. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. And I guess the only other thing that I read a lot about was like the fact that the Black Moth, like a lot of people are like, the way that they describe it was like escapist, and like swashbuckling came up a lot, like a swashbuckling novel. But also people say that it's actually
What does that mean?
like an adventurous, like
Okay.
Yeah, like an adventure, fun
That's
time.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that okay, sorry.
But also like people all credit it for being very well researched, apparently, which I wouldn't know because I don't know anything about 1750 whatever. But like apparently, like a lot of the language and a lot of the details she gets very right. So she put a lot of effort into the research, not so much into the plot. And that's the Black Moth, everyone.
She only had so much time.
Wow.
She had to get her first novel out of the way so she could get to the other 49.
Duh.
To your question, swashbuckling means engaging in daring and romantic adventures with bravado or flamboyance.
Okay.
Ooh.
Which I think this qualifies
Yeah,
as.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think that's a good word. I mean, I always think about swashbuckling. I always think about like pirates. When I think about swashbuckling.
Swords and pirates, yeah.
Honestly, like I know that this is like I forget about the adventure because like there's so much other stuff that was going on. Like the drama of it all, like there was a lot of like action and adventure. I don't want to ruin the summary, but like I thought more about like the interpersonal drama and like the fact that something like terrible would happen and they'd be like, gosh, I wish I could do something about that, but we have to sit down for a 7-course dinner and so I'm stuck here. And like that's what that's what like stands out in my mind. But
it is not the like
what a travesty.
multiple...
Can you pass the peas?
Yeah. Like...
So the
like,
duels and the kidnapping, that's not in your head at all.
No, not really. It's like, oh, I'm so tired from being on the road when you kidnapped me. I think I'm gonna go to bed. And the dude being like, well, maybe wait a second. Like, like considering her request to like go to bed after he's like kidnapped her. Like that's what I think of, and I think, yeah. I mean, yeah, there is action and adventure. I'll allow it.
Well, good news, Niah, because now you already spoiled a little bit, but we'll forgive that because I'm assuming a lot of our listeners have never read this book. And I don't know that we're making a great case for the fact that they should. So luckily, you are now going to give us a wonderful summary so that they know what this book is about before we start discussing it.
Yes. I would like to remind everyone that it has been quite some time since I have read this book, okay? That's what I would like to say before I dive into this, but we're going to do it. Okay. What happens in The Black Moth? And that's the summary. Okay. What didn't happen? It's like a third grade book report where it's like, I will tell you what happened in The Black Moth. In The Black Moth, many things occurred.
First of all, we start the book.
The book opens is my next line. It literally goes to one. Okay. The book opens with our villain, who is literally called the Devil. As one might expect from someone called the Devil, he is evil, like super evil. Kicking nuns, calling babies ugly, cheating at cards, all of the things that make people bad. He has openly admitted to ruining someone's sister as well. It's gonna be a minute before we hear from the evil Duke again, but don't forget him. He is very important. Just hold him in your mind, the Devil Duke, okay? He has a name. What it is, I couldn't remember, and I didn't look it up before we started.
No, wait, we have it. We have it.
We have it?
I can tell you. I have a
like
whole
the
list
Duke
of characters.
of
I think his name is
Andover or
Duke of Andover. Yeah.
Isn't his
Duke of
like
Andover.
first name like Tracy or something?
Tracy Belmanoir, the Duke of Andover.
No wonder he went by the Double Duke.
Sorry to any Tracy's listening. I feel like we insult one name per episode.
No, Tracy's a
feel
great.
like
It's a
just
great
me.
name. No, listen, Tracy is a fine name. Tracy Belmanoir is
Yeah.
crazy. Like
It
what?
isn't. It's wild. I'm gonna still call him the Double Duke because that's what's in my notes. I'm sorry.
DD.
TD. Okay. Okay. We cut to our hero, Jack. But he doesn't really seem like a hero because he's actually been exiled for cheating at cards, which is literally the worst crime that anyone could ever commit. There is nothing worse than cheating at cards.
They do kind of make it seem that way.
I do. I'm like, okay, we just cut from someone who is like literally called
Planning
the devil.
kidnapping,
And
yeah.
yes. And then they're like, but he cheated at cards. And so look at him. Can't come back from that at all. But our hero is in a bar and has been tracked down by his father's butler. The butler tells him that his father is dead and that he has inherited the earldom. But Jack doesn't want the earldom. He wants his brother to be earl because he thinks his brother is better suited to living the high life of an earl. His brother is married and has a family, and Jack doesn't think he'd be able to handle being broke. Jack loves his brother. He loves his brother so much that he actually took the fall for his brother's crime. That's right. Jack didn't cheat at cards. His brother Richard did. I know, but Jack took the blame because he's a good big brother. Aside from that, Jack is too busy to be an earl. What is he busy doing? Jack is busy being a highwayman. And not just any kind of highwayman, but a cool and sexy highwayman who has somehow never managed to get caught or discovered despite being kind of bad at being a highwayman and fine with just sort of telling anyone and everyone that he is a highwayman.
He literally goes places and they'll be like, what is your career? And he'll be like, I'm a highwayman, which is basically like being like, what do you do for a living? Well, I rob people on the road.
Like he, in his first chapter or whatever, he like robs a person and they come to like his house afterwards and they're just like, hey, we just got robbed on the street. And he literally tells the dude's servant, like, oh, yeah, that was me, dude. That was me. Here's the ring that I stole from the person you work for. Take it. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you give? He's like, here's your boss's ring.
He has no survival skills.
No, he's really bad at this job.
Yeah, like it's terrible, but it's okay. You can be bad at your job as long as you are like hot and I guess have a good heart or something. I don't know. Let that be a lesson. to no
I think
one.
that is true, though. I think the hotter you are, the worse you can be at your job. I think that's a very real thing. And this book
He's
really
the
helps
first
me
personality
understand
hire.
Yeah. That's fair. She did so much with this book. She didn't even know what she was introducing us to. She just introduced us to historical romances and to personality hires. So there you go. So unfortunately, Jack is so bad at being a highwayman that one day he gets caught and arrested. But Jack is actually super lucky, and the person who arrests him turns out to be his former best friend. They are happily reunited, even though Jack hasn't spoken to his friend Miles since he was exiled from society for cheating at cards. As a reminder, he was exiled from society for cheating at cards, in case we forgot, which is the worst crime that anyone could ever commit. Murder, fine. Kidnapping, still bad, but, cheating at cards, get out. Get out. Miles eventually lets Jack go because Miles is just as bad at his job as Jack is. Jack decides to...
I mean, you're not wrong. The corruption goes to the top.
Okay? Like, now he's like the sheriff, okay? And he says, oh, we're besties. Like, keeping in mind that he still thinks that Jack committed this heinous crime of cheating at cards. But he's like, oh, man. What are you gonna
That's
do?
my bro.
Yeah, exactly. Jack decides to stay with Miles and his wife for a while because they are besties. Now, we switch back to the Devil Duke. The devil has been busy. What has he been busy doing? He's been busy falling in love.
No.
He has his eye on a beautiful young woman who he wants to marry. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say marry? I meant kidnap. He has his eye on a young woman who he wants to kidnap and then marry. Her name is Diana. The devil tries to kidnap Diana, and his evil plan is thwarted by Jack. Jack and the devil duel, and even though Jack wins, he's gravely injured. Well, not gravely injured. Dude, he gets up and walks away, but he's like, and then
I'm sick.
Yeah, exactly. But he's injured enough that he's very injured. But thankfully, Diane helps him. Her name is Diane, not Diana. Diane helps nurse him back to health despite having no formal medical training. Jack refuses to tell. That's really important to note. She's very skilled. She's very pretty. She's bad at she's okay. Jack refuses to tell Diane or anyone who he really is, despite obviously lying about his identity, and despite the fact that she found him on the side of the road, and despite the fact that he is literally the definition of a scrub. She falls in love with Jack. and Jack falls in love with her. But Jack is aware of his scrub status and knows he isn't good enough for her love. So once he's well enough, he leaves her house and goes back to Miles and his wife. That's sad. They can't be together because he knows that his scrubdom is just too much to overcome.
At least he knows.
He knows, yeah. She didn't have to tell him. You're probably wondering, what is Richard, Jack's brother, doing while all of this is going on? Great question. Richard is moping and lamenting the fact that his wife is spending all of their money and doesn't want to spend any time with him or their child. And what is Richard's wife doing when she isn't spending all of their money and ignoring her family? Well, she's cheating on Richard and spending time with her brother. I bet you'll never guess who her brother is. Likely because I forgot to mention it. Her brother is none other than the devil himself, the Devil Duke. That's
wow.
Thank you. Like, come on. Like, please. Like, that's a reveal. You guys should have forgotten enough about the book that should have been.
No, but listen, Lavinia is my favorite part about this book, so nothing could wipe her from my mind, because the whole time I was reading this book, I was like, I think I love her.
Every female character in this book is more interesting than all of the men.
Oh,
like, actually.
by far.
Like,
by far.
Absolutely. Richard is really bummed out by all of her cheating, so he decides to do the only thing he can do. He tells Lavinia he's going to announce to an entire party that she's cheating on him. Lavinia hates that idea. Like, she totally hates it. So much so that it inspires her to reconsider her cheating ways, and she realizes she was in the wrong, and she and Richard reconcile. Shortly after this, the Devil Duke remembers that you can actually try to kidnap a person as many times as you want, and he decides it's high time. He discovers this,
And that's called having free will, is what that's called.
Exactly. And he's practicing his free will because he decides that it's high time he tries to kidnap the love of his life again. And he succeeds this time. He brings her to his house. They have a 7-course dinner where she makes literally no effort to escape whatsoever. And then Jack arrives, having caught wind of the Duke's plan to kidnap her. Once again, the two of them duel, but unfortunately, Jack is super tired from all of the dueling and being in love and racing through the night to arrive at the Duke's doorstep, and he collapses. Thankfully, literally every other character in the book arrives right as he collapses from exhaustion. Like, literally every character seems to just pile into this room. Jack's brother admits that he was the one who cheated at cards, and everyone just sort of decides not to tell anyone that the devil kidnapped Diane because it would ruin her reputation for some reason. And then they just kind of shake their fists at him, and then everybody like leaves, and Jack and Diane are married and everything is fine. Actually, before that happens, they do sit down and have some like tea or something like that before they like leave the house. But then everyone is happy and in love, and the Devil Duke has a moment of reflection where he's like, is it bad to be the devil? Nah. And then that's it. That's the end. That's the end of the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
This sounds familiar.
Wait, I did read this.
I was feeling real sassy after I finished reading that book, apparently.
So now that we've had a little reminder, now I think is a good time to ask, like, thinking back when we read this, what were your thoughts? Did you enjoy reading it? Did you not enjoy reading it? Were there any aspects of it that you did like, if you didn't like it? Whoever wants to. Lizzy, you should. Lizzy.
I liked it. Well, not the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, how long is this book? I would have put it down if it wasn't for the podcast. And I was also sad because I was messaging you guys. I thought the book was really going to focus on Jack. So I was excited for the Golden Retriever Highwayman, and it's more about his brother for a while.
Yeah.
But then I also really like, what's the brother's wife? Lavinia?
Lavinia.
I also really liked her. I was in it for the drama. I had a good time. I don't know if I'd recommend it necessarily, but I don't regret reading it.
Nice.
I feel similarly. Like, I wouldn't say I liked it. Maybe that reaction would have been different had we recorded it right after I read it. But I think time and space has really made it, like, it's so unmemorable to me. And it's not a bit that I literally sat down to like think about doing this podcast, and I was like racking my brain for details about this book because it like slid totally off of like my memory in every way. So I don't think that that makes it like sit particularly well. But while I was reading, I do think that the beginning is very slow. It takes like half of the story before Jack even meets Diane. And like, so like, I don't know, it's very weirdly paced in that regard. But I do remember like reading certain dialogue things and like laughing about like some of the banter and some of the dialogue. And there is a way that like some of the dueling and stuff that it is kind of just funny the way that it sits in the story. So I didn't have a miserable time. I don't know. I think it was fine.
Niah?
What do you think, Jaysen? You go first.
I do think you mentioned that we've kind of jokingly talked about how like it's hard to remember this book because we read it a little while ago, but I will agree with Mari, even when I was in the process of reading it, especially for like books now, if I know I'm going to review it, if I know I'm doing for the podcast, I'll make notes. And even with this book, like if I didn't make my notes immediately after like reading time, like if I waited until the next morning to like jot some things down, I would forget a lot of what happened because the story is just so like not super memorable, and the moment to moment things that are happening are just not that memorable. And I think part of that comes from the structure. Like it has one of the weirdest plot structures I've ever seen in my life. But what I will say is I do think it was very funny. Like what I remember is not the plot and not the story, but what I remember are these really funny moments. And I remember there are certain characters that are so over the top ridiculous that are just like you would expect to find them in like a stage play comedy presented in like London, like something just absolutely over the top ridiculous, because they're so overly dramatic that you find yourself laughing. And so that's what I came away from this book with, was those like really funny moments with those characters, but not necessarily like the story element of it. So I would say, did I like this book as like a story? Not really, because I barely even the next day after finishing it, I was like, what even happened in that book? But I really enjoyed several of the characters and found them to be really, really fun to read. So that there was that at least. Niah?
I think that the fact that she was telling this as a story to her sick brother makes so much more sense to me, because it reads like someone saying, like making up a story to keep someone interested, and then the next day coming back and being like, and now we're like, has something else wild like happening, and just sort of like the pieces altogether don't make a lot of like sense to me. Like it doesn't read to me as like a good story, but the characters are like interesting. Like I could definitely see her brother being like, oh, tell me more about Jack, or what's going on with the devil, or something like that, or like being like, do you remember all these characters that you made up who were doing ridiculous things like off screen for 7 chapters, and now we have to remember who they are and what's going on. But no, I didn't like the book. I liked the characters though. I thought the characters were really, really like interesting. I know it's really silly, but I like thought Jack being arrested by his like best friend, and then his best friend's wife like trying to go and free him because she was like, this is the gentleman like highwayman that I've heard about. We shouldn't arrest him. Yeah, he commits crime, but like, okay. Like, I think I think that was like really funny and kind of like ridiculous, like moments like that. I think the fact that the characters were more interesting than the story, it actually made me go like, I would read other things by this author, but not anytime soon, if I'm being real. Because this book was so hard to get into, and I felt like it was really kind of like boring for the first little bit. And I was struggling to figure out how all of these pieces connected and like what actually like happened. It didn't even really need to be like a romance, if we're being honest. Like he could have just, I mean, that whole like plot could have been like pushed aside, and it could have just been the story of some like random spinster saving this highwayman or something like that, and it would have been fine, because I don't believe that they were actually like in love or that they cared about each other. I think maybe they were just both personality hires that like liked each other because they were hot or something. I don't know.
Hearing you described it reminded me of a friend I used to have who, when someone was unattractive, she would describe their face as, it looks like none of his features got together and talked to each other about what they were going to do. And that's kind of how I feel about the plot. Yeah. Like none of them got together and talked to each other about like what the other was doing. And so like it just felt like this collection of things that happened versus like a story that we were being told, you know, like a progression. So I agree with that. And that's why I think like moments and characters stand out, because there were like these like flashes in the pan versus like, oh, okay, like a cohesive thing that we were being told.
Yeah. You know what you said, Jaysen, about the characters made me think about it. I could easily see this as a middle grade play. Like it's very like the characters were very Robin Hood, Music Man. Like I could easily see it as a musical.
Do you guys want to know a fun fact?
Yes.
Okay, Georgette Heyer wanted to write a sequel to this in which she redeemed the Devil Duke. But
I knew it.
Okay, but as she thought about it, well, I don't really know like what the reason.
It turns out Rhys Sand is actually a good guy.
But for whatever reason, she decided that she couldn't do it because the first book was so melodramatic or something along those lines. So she ends up actually taking these characters and reworking them into a new standalone novel called These Old Shades. And so the characters are basically these characters, but like reworked, and like everyone says better. And so in that
She wrote
story
fan fiction
of her
wrote
own,
her own
of her own,
Shyamala.
of her own story. And in it,
Wow.
the Devil Duke gets a redemption arc, and he gets to like do his
I
own-
And you know what,
knew
Niah?
it.
You would too for a check. Okay, so
and you would too.
I would. I'm not like drop the Amazon affiliate link. I'm not trying to. Okay.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie, or it is also a play called Noises Off, but like the play, if you get a chance, watch the movie. It is phenomenal. It has all-star cast like Carol Burnett, Christopher Reeve, and it's about these actors who are putting on a like British play, but everything keeps going wrong. And like it plays out in 3 acts. So the first act, you see the play from the dress rehearsal and you see it from the audience and things are already going wrong. And the second act, you see it from backstage while they're actually performing it and everything is going crazy. And in the third act, you see it from the front again, and it's just like a hot mess disaster. So it's kind of like the play that goes wrong a little bit. But the play that they're performing in that movie, which is this just like ridiculous British comedy, this book read to me like that. Like it should just be like a ridiculous British comedy play, because when this book was at its best was when it was being funny. Like when
Yes.
it was being ridiculous, over the top, and silly was when I enjoyed it the most. And so I think it should have leaned into that more.
I think if it's read as a comedy, it does come across a lot better. Because like the reason that I was able to push through is because I was like, this is ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Like it was funny to think about how like silly it was.
It really struck me because since we were talking so much about kidnapping, I could not help but think about Pamela and
Yes.
like the kidnapping that happened in there, and how we were reading that kidnapping horrified. Like we came away from that meaning like that was a horror. And then this book has a bunch of kidnapping and we're like, how
But, like,
funny.
This is like fun kidnap. This is like kidnapping, haha.
Kidnapping in every book we've read.
Oh my gosh, there's so much kidnapping. But this kidnapping, like he feeds her. He like it's very like civil. It's like
Yeah.
oh here's a like I mean like even in the there's this whole scene where they're like riding to his estate together, and she's like, I won't even look at you, but I will adjust my pillow so that I'm very comfortable as I'm riding to the estate. It's like okay, maybe kidnapping is bad. However,
This is funny.
yeah,
I mean, he is a
it's like,
duke.
yeah.
I think, I think he is like somewhat handsome. He probably has a lot of money. I'd be like, oh no, don't kidnap me. I don't know,
Well,
I don't
she did like him at first because like
Yes.
there's a like couple of paragraphs where it's like she was kind of like into him and like she found him so beautiful and was so excited by his attention, and then she was like, and then one day she realized, she made eye contact with him and she was like, oh no, well there's something not right there, and she went and she told her aunt, and then her aunt started like running interference whenever he tried to like talk to her. So like
I loved that part because it's kind of like, and I kind of liked him or whatever. And she said something along the lines of like, and then he returned my romantic interest. Ugh.
and you know what, I
like
get it.
her.
I was like, you know what? I get it.
You're like,
I
whoa,
thought it
whoa,
was
whoa,
pretty
whoa, whoa.
She said he gave me the ick.
Can I please make one request of this podcast, though?
Mhm.
We have not read a book that hasn't had a kidnapping.
That's
I
gonna be
count
the
Lydia. I count it.
Oh,
Lydia,
I was
that's a
like, wait, I was
kidnapping.
just
That's a
thinking, yeah. That is a
when we get to the
kidnapping,
when we get to the final episode of this, like I've been calling the first season romance because we're going through the history of romance. I think our in conclusion will be like the history of the romance genre is kidnapping. That is the moral of the story. You guys have already answered several of my first questions, which is great because then we can kind of skip forward. So the book was written in the 1920s, but it's set in the 18th century. How do you think Heyer's portrayal of this Georgian era compares to what we've read in books written in these times before? But I guess, as you said, the only book we've read that's like written kind of in this era is Pamela, correct?
Yeah. And the kidnapping is there, one for one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It made me think a little bit about like historical romance in general. So when I first came to reading romance, I came in through historical romance. So I was reading like Tessa Dare and like Sarah McLean and like all of that stuff. So that was like my introduction to romance as a genre. So it was very interesting to see this because I think a thing about a lot of historical romance, right? I'm not going to say all of it, is that it's like looking back at a time period and using its like social structure and the trappings of the time period, but there is very often a modern lens around that, right? So you have like the wallflower or the governess or whatever, but she's kind of a feminist and she's like trapped in the society that won't let her speak her mind, but she's going to anyway. So there's like a lot of like modern morals and modern like lens that is put on into a historical time period. And it was funny to me because I think we see that here with the Black Moth, because yes, it's set in the 18th century, but there is like I don't know, like a ha ha he he to it all that speaks to me of like this woman in the 1920s in a very different time period and context, looking back and playing in that time period as a sandbox. What exactly that means, like, I don't know enough about the history and about like a 1920s woman living in London at that time, but it felt that way to me. Partially because this is a comedy, but also because even Lavinia, she feels like a 1920s interpretation of an aristocratic woman versus like somebody who would have been in the 18th century, like, or anything we saw in Pamela, or like how deep in even like things like Pride and Prejudice, which is more of a romance than Pamela was, still had like its like morality issues at play, right? This was just completely interested in sort of like the adventure and the play of it all in a way that spoke to me of like that duality of like being in one time period and writing about another.
Lavinia was like a rake, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
I loved
Which
it too.
but we never would have seen that type of like that type of character was being like ostracized from society in older books, and in this she's like running the parties, you know, like she is talk of the town. Meanwhile, if she was actually written in that time period, she would have been like
the roles would have been reversed. Yeah.
Even the like sheriff's wife who came in and saved Jack, like that whole performance that they put on, I think you're right. It's a lot more playful, especially with the women in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I think the relationship between the sheriff and his wife was actually like really sweet. I was like, that is very romantic, and that's really like nice. It was really funny to me when he'd be like, don't like Jack too much. Like, we are married. You are with me. Like, please. She'd be like, he is so, like, just look at the way he looks in that suit or something like that. And he'd be like, ma'am, I'm right here. It was so funny.
We haven't talked about that enough, just how hot Jack is. And I think, did I imagine it, or were a lot of people commenting on his hands? Like, the whole time, like, that's what gave him away as a highwayman, because they were like, you
his
have
hands
no
were too nice.
hands.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
They
His
had
hands were
really
too clean. They were too...
Mm.
Yeah, too manicured. Yeah. That definitely.
They said he has a French. His French tips are too nice to be a highwayman, and that's true. Traditionally, highwaymen don't have like French tips, so they're right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! You know, you think about how at the time that Georgette Heyer is writing this, it is an escapist story. Like, and a lot of times when we read historical fiction, it's escapist, right? Like, it brings us back to a simpler time. And so it makes sense that when you're writing it from the perspective of the person who is escaping into this, that it's going to have more of that feel than when you're writing it as like, when we read books that are set in present day that are like contemporary fiction or contemporary romance, we don't necessarily think of those as like escapist literature, right? Even the ones that are like really flowery and fluffy, I don't know that I always think of those as like, oh, I'm escaping into this world, right? Because it's just like our normal world. Like, beach read is literally just about like two people at a beach. And so, whereas this is, you know, but like at some point in the future, they'll write about our time now, and then it'll be like, oh, we're escaping into a simpler time, you know? And so I think it makes sense that it has a little bit more of that air of fun. It's not as serious because the stakes of what is at stake for these characters is not nearly as real to this author as it would have been to the authors writing at that time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's safe to say it is deeply unserious, as a matter of fact. But like,
in all of our other episodes, we've kind of talked a little bit about like what the book is trying to say, right? Like, what's the message? And that was especially true for Pamela, where it was like a morality tale. So like, what's the... this book is not saying a goddamn thing.
It said it's okay to have your brain off. It's okay. It said, don't think about this too much. Yeah. Just
I thought it
vibes.
was so cool learning that it was sort of a bedtime story to her brother, because it really, I think that's what makes it kind of charming, as I do imagine her like creating these characters for her brother. But it does
she was
feel like...
17.
Yeah. And what happened next? And then he remembered he could kidnap her again.
And then they lost her.
And you could see her like using a blanket to be like, and the Devil Duke enters, you know, like, and little boy's like, oh, not the Devil Duke. And that also maybe is why there's not as much romance in this book, because, you know, you're telling the story to like a young boy. Maybe he wants more of the adventure and less. And she's like, but then they're falling in love. And he's like, no, get back to the fighting. Do another duel.
Well, okay, to that point, another thing that we've talked a lot about across the episodes is like we've touched a little bit on Jack and how hot he is. Not too much on Diane, who is seemingly the female protagonist of this. Not really, though. Not really, though. And
I
so,
forgot about
like,
that.
it's like you can't even compare her. Like, we've done the thing in the past of like Pamela versus Jane versus Elizabeth versus whatever her name was, and Kathy in Wuthering Heights. Diane is
She's there.
She has zero personality.
She's there, I guess.
She very confident. Like when she is kidnapped, she's very much will screw you for kidnapping me. She doesn't really get shaken for a bit, but then
I thought that was
remember.
I thought it was because like she was very much like, God, I would slap you if only society would allow me to do it. Like, to me,
Your lucky society is holding my hand back.
She's like, you're so lucky. If I wasn't held back by the rules of society, I'd open the door and leave your house. Like
Oh my
that's
gosh.
so to me, like her confidence is like in her role of being like, I'm just here. Like she's like, oh, I mean, it's very frustrating because I feel like of all of the like female characters in the book, she is like the least interesting actually.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
even her aunt is actually more interesting than she is. Like there's a scene where she's like, he said he couldn't marry me because he's like broke and that he might be lying about his identity. And aunt's like, okay, good, don't marry him. He is broke.
Oh, whoa.
I was like, he is. Did you like
That's correct.
She's like, good for him. Like now you don't have to tell him you won't marry him because he doesn't have any money. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's like, which is an interesting choice.
I think what's funny, behind the scenes, I want to mention, I wrote so many really thought-provoking questions for this book, and they just make no sense to ask these really deep questions about this deeply unserious book, but I'm going to ask a couple of them anyway. Yeah, so Jack Carstaris is both a nobleman and a highwayman. How does Heyer use his dual identity to explore ideas of class, justice, and redemption?
Thank you for asking that, Jaysen. I would like to say that she doesn't.
It doesn't, actually.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Jack is both a nobleman and a highwayman, but how does Heyer use this duality, this dual identity, to explore ideas of class, justice, and redemption?
No, like she absolutely does not. She actually uses his identity as a highwayman to reinforce that he's like a noble. She's like, oh, he's so like noble and so like aristocratic that like his hands look great. Like he'd never like sully himself. Or like even when he's arrested, they're just like, wow, this man, he seems like he knows what he's talking about. There's no way he could be like a criminal. And even like him being exiled, they're like, well, the reason he's exiled is because he was so good and so noble that he took the fall for his brother. So like all of his duality or all the things that like would maybe like go against like him being a noble, he uses those things to like double down on how like noble he actually is. Like there's one sentence where it's like, after I was exiled, I ran away to Paris and I had a real good time, but I realized I was having too good of a time and I needed to like suffer or something like that. I don't know. Like he had a good time in Paris. He said that he like went a little bit wild and then he was like, and then I came home and decided to be a highwayman. And it's just like, it's really, I don't think she does in any way whatsoever. And it's kind of interesting actually to think about the ways that she very obviously could and chooses not to.
Parts
I don't know.
Like, remind me of Pamela a bit. It's a little bit of the rank doesn't mean you're virtuous kind of thing. So like having a duke, I think that's closer to the duality for me. It was the highwayman, theoretically with no status or anything, who had all of the morals and was like the honorable person, versus the duke. Everyone was so shocked that he would kidnap someone. So it was a little bit like Pamela that way, but I don't know about just Jack's duality specifically.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that the reason that there's not a real like duality, like Niah was saying, is that there's like no real dual nature to his character, right? He's like an honorable man. He's like Robin Hooding out there. He's like barely stealing from people. he's, he's like bad at it. He's an honorable guy. I think more than anything, it's not like he is a nobleman and a highwayman. I think he's a nobleman who is like dressing up. He's just
Like
putting
cosplay
on.
as a
Yeah.
highwayman.
He's like a costume that he's kind of using at this point. And I think that the problem there too is that it is kind of a modern reader sort of thing, because of the like cheating at cards thing is like so funny to us as modern readers. But it's also that the fact that that thing is very low stakes in the sense that it's just solved by one conversation, right? It's just like, someone stands up and goes, well, actually, I cheated at cards. And everyone's like, oh, man, that solves it. And so there's like no actual stakes. Like he gets arrested once. It's his old pal. So there's no, because there's no depth there are no stakes. It doesn't actually matter. Like his side job could have been clown and it would have been the same exact thing, right? Like it's like you could sub in anything.
I was just thinking that the brother was kind of interesting with the morality thing with like, is he going to be more loyal to his wife or his brother? Like what's going to win at the end there? And because he didn't even know that his brother was in love with someone and couldn't be with her because he was a highwayman. He kind of just decided that for himself at the end. So I actually thought he was a little more interesting than Jack.
Oh yeah, like his brother and Lavinia are by far the more interesting two characters here. Like their relationship, and Lavinia just in general is so fun. Like as a character, like those two are just so much more interesting. I also kind of wondered if structurally this book would have been better if we didn't know right from the very first chapter that Jack took the fall for his brother. I think if that had been a reveal towards the end of the book, that would have made it much more interesting. But the fact that we know that Jack took the fall, and because it's such a low stakes thing, right? Like it's not a murder. It's like you cheated at cards. Like you know that the easy solution is just for a character to tell the truth. And you never want your audience to know the twist or the resolution, maybe a beat ahead of when it happens, but not at the beginning of the book when it's not even going to get resolved until the end. Like that's like plot structure 101. And so I think that ultimately is a big issue with this book, that we know how it's going to be resolved basically from page one. And that makes going through the motions of getting there feel kind of pointless a lot of the times, unfortunately.
I think something else that is also interesting is like, not only do we know that Jack took the fall and that he didn't actually cheat at cards, but everyone that he speaks to seems to know it as well. Everyone's like, I've never believed that. You have always been like the best person in the world. Like even his best friend is like,
it's the worst kept secret in town.
Yeah.
Like
everyone the fact that he's a highwayman. Everybody knows he's a highwayman. Everybody knows he doesn't cheat at cards. Like everyone also knows he's the hottest man.
He's the hottest man.
What is? Oh my god. My favorite thing actually is thinking about the people in this like small town, like letting him like cosplay being a highwayman. There's like, that's just literally just leave Jack alone. Like that's just like
that's just crazy Jack.
The whole thing. They're like, no, like they're here and they're trying to like survive because they make like 2 pennies every like day, every year or something like that. And this like rich dude is like stealing from people and then like giving them things that they can't fence. Like how are they gonna like sell? Like, there's no way for them to like sell the stuff that he's stealing from these rich people anyway, and they're just like, no, just leave him alone. Like what do you need? Like, that's just
if they
he's like a Jonathan Bailey type
like,
person, like riding through town every day with like maybe a little black mask and being like, and then be like, oh, there he goes.
Yeah, crazy Jack. It'd be so funny if they actually organized for people to like, for him to rob. Like the town is like, gather round volunteers.
They're like, he needs this.
Who's getting robbed this week?
And see, that would be a better book. Okay, last question before we finish things off. You're right. That Georgette Heyer comes up a lot when we look at the history of romance, right? Like she's very important to the history of like, especially historical romance. Like she really laid the groundwork for that. But looking at this book specifically, and maybe even just to Georgette Heyer, is there anything from this book that you think survives into the romance genre of today, other than the fact that she
kidnapping?
Kidnapping is universal, is what I've learned. Universal
the good old
experience.
miscommunication trope between Lavinia and I forgot his name. The fact that they could have talked and avoided her wanting to run away with the other man. She thought he was cheating on her, so she needed like a backup plan with the other guy.
I
Like,
forgot.
he
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
finding
I
out
remember
She
about
thought
his
that he had
brother or
like lost
something.
interest. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
She was like, I could cheat on you all day. You cheat on me? Who do you think you are?
Yeah,
And she's
and then they
right.
both have like a "I love
Yeah.
you," and they
Yeah.
move on.
I
Mhm.
forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think also with like Jack, we see a move towards like we were getting more into like a brooding hero with like Darcy, the autistic brooding hero, and then we had Heathcliff, like the very, very brooding,
The criminal.
the criminal brooding hero. And somehow we've jumped all these years and we've met a rake, I think, or like the prototype of a rake for the first time, right? He's like now more adventurous. He's like he's still, I think, too honorable to be like a true rake that we kind of see in historical romance, but this is definitely like a prototype of like what you start seeing with all of these like titled characters and like their adventuring and sleeping around kind of ways, and they're just so hot and all of that stuff.
A masked vigilante in any scenario. I kept
Mm.
thinking of what's his name from The Princess Bride, Wesley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
You said something earlier too that made me want to talk about the princess. Oh, when you were like that she was telling the story to her brother, which is like a Princess Bride thing, and he's like, "Skip the kissing, get to the swashbuckling."
Yeah.
That's also a very Princess Bride thing. Yeah.
There were many times that this book kind of reminded me of, like, I think also just the way that I envisioned this world and these characters in my head definitely has like Princess Bride elements to it. Even the way that Lavinia and her husband talk to each other is sort of like that couple, that like bickering couple in The Princess Bride that's played by like Billy Crystal, and I can't remember who plays the female character, but you know that they're like, "I'm not a witch, I'm your wife," like that whole thing. Like they kind of have that relationship a little bit. So yeah, and swashbuckling, I like that. To me, Princess Bride is like the quintessential, like when I think swashbuckling, that's the movie that comes into my head, you know? So
Yes.
I definitely think there's some elements of that. Do I think that The Princess Bride was based on this? No. But I think there are elements here that, like, you know, travel through time to that. Yeah, for sure.
Men giving women the ick. That survives.
Fair enough.
That survives. That
Because
survives.
like, I mean, that it
Yeah.
starts off with that, and it's just like a love
Yeah.
triangle, you know,
Also
between the double
kind of-
Jack and Diane.
Brain off books will
Oh,
never
yeah,
die.
that's
true.
It was also sort of an
That's true.
arranged marriage by
Yes.
the Duke. Yeah.
Mhm.
He
Mm.
That
pushed
is
them
true.
together.
A
Yeah.
marriage of convenience, arranged
Mhm.
marriage. Yeah.
But I think ultimately Brain Off Books, that is the one.
Yeah.
That I think that's really the survivor here, is that all of our other romances, I think, like you said, have really had something to say. And I do think there's something to be said for that, because from this point, we're not going to be reading a ton of them just because there's so many of them, and a lot of them are not considered very good. And also just a lot of them are not super accessible, like by today. But we're kind of getting close to that like Harlequin novel type thing. And a lot of those are, you know, don't think about it, just vibes, nothing to say kind of books. Like they're just kind of for the fun of it, like the romancy fun of it. They don't really have a lot of that depth. And so I think this is like an early incarnation of that as we start to head into that realm of just like very little editing, print these romance books as fast as possible and get them on the shelves kind of thing, which is sort of what we're at the cusp of at this time period.
I have to emotionally prepare myself. Like thank you for that like warning, because you're right. Like you're absolutely right. Like, thank you.
Well, I'll talk about it in a second, but we're kind of skipping over a lot of that for a few reasons, but we're still going to kind of hit one of, I think, is the best of sort of that era. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But out of 5, final rating out of 5.
Okay, so can I rate the actual book, and then can I rate like its impact on romance? Maybe?
Sure, yeah, because what is it? Storygraph lets you rate
2
like
and
16
2.
different
No, I'm
things.
Not them being
No,
the
I'm
same.
So in that case, you could give 1 rating if they're the same number.
Well, because like I do think that like her impact on romance, and I do think that like creating an entirely new like genre, I think that that's amazing, especially at 17, dude. Like that's huge, right? And I don't want the fact that I did not enjoy this book in any way whatsoever to like seem as if I'm trying to like diminish her impact and like how like amazing that is, especially like at her age. But I did not like this book. It was so hard to read. I'd say maybe 1.5.
I mean, I think it's also worth mentioning. I mean, I think this is obvious, but maybe not. Great authors can write bad books, you know, and I
Yes.
think that happens a lot too. And I think that's
Yeah, it
perfectly
does.
fine.
It happens a lot.
I'm having a struggle here. I can't remember. I think I gave Wuthering Heights 2 stars. And so like I'm having a whole internal sort of like thing about Wuthering Heights versus this.
Go for
and
mine.
like I don't know, gun to your head right now, would you rather reread Wuthering Heights or The Black Moth?
The Black Moth.
The Black Moth.
The Black Moth.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So I'm
so
like
maybe 2.5 actually. Thank you. You're right.
2.5 stars.
Two stars.
I don't know.
2 stars, 0.
Is that,
I did like 2 stars.
That's crazy.
I think I don't remember what I gave Wuthering Heights, but like I don't know. But I would like reread if I had to choose between the two of them, I would say maybe I don't need to read ever again. You know? I'd say, is there a third option? It's like if I'm stuck on a desert island and those are the only 2 books I have, maybe I become an author. Maybe I'm writing books like as opposed to reading
in the sand, letter by letter.
It's gonna be washed away every day, and that would still be better.
Maybe you try knitting. At that point, maybe you just try a different hobby.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Mari, come back to me. Oh my gosh, because now I'm thinking about that.
I think it's like 2.5 for me. I think I had more fun here. It's probably a worse story, but my ratings are always quality and enjoyment.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm at like a 2.5 stars.
I feel like I would second that. I put it at 3, but this is also me just with the experience. It reminded me of being in class when you'd rotate who's each character, like students reading it out loud, or the play, like in Jane Eyre, that time when they'd put on a performance, like a little bit of a play that's easy for them to do with dinner time. That's what it reminded me of. So I had fun, but I do think 2.5 might be more accurate.
I feel 2 stars. Yeah, I'm confident in my decision now. Don't ask me again or I'll change my mind.
I am pulling up my Goodreads to see what I gave it. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 3. And even now talking about it, I think I would give it a 3. For me, the way that I rate, like I give a lot more books 5 stars than probably deserve them because of a lot of my rating. I do rate based on like the craft, but a lot of my rating is purely like how much enjoyment I felt from the book, like as soon as I walk away from it, right? Like as soon as I put down the pages, like what is the feeling I'm leaving with? And if it's like ecstatic, oh my God, I love this, I can't wait to talk about it, that's probably a 5. This book is very like right in the middle of the road for me. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read. It wasn't the best book I've ever read. I definitely feel like I would have given it a 3. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I gave it a 3. So I'm going to stick with the 3. 3 seems very good for how I felt about it. For me, when I rate like a 1 or a 2 star is a book that makes me mad. A 1 star is a book that like I hated, and a 2 star is a book that like made me angry that I read it. Like something about that book, I was unhappy that I read it, and I didn't feel that way with this book. There were parts of it that I really enjoyed, and truthfully, I think it would be a 2 star if Lavinia wasn't in the book, but I enjoyed her character and her ridiculousness so very much that it brought the book up for me because she was so dramatic and silly and just like the worst, but in the best way. And I love that type of character, and that definitely brought the book up from a 2 to a 3 for me because I just enjoyed her so much.
I feel like she's like Lydia on her second marriage. You know what I mean? Like Wickham has had like an unfortunate, he fell down the stairs, you know what I mean? And then she's like on her second marriage and she's just like living it up. That's what I'm going to choose to believe.
She's just great.
Fan fiction.
Yeah, I loved her so much. And when she was on page, I sort of forgot all the problems I had with the book. Like anytime she was in a scene, it was easy for me to like engage with. It was fun to read. I forgot that like a lot of things didn't really make sense. There was no romance until like 60% of the way through the book. Like all of those things melted away when Lavinia was there because I just thought she was so great. So let's talk a little bit about what is coming up because we have a lot of things to discuss that are exciting. So the first thing, and I'm going to mention this now because as I told these 3 before we started recording, if I mention it, then we'll hold ourselves more accountable to it. But the plan is that next week, we are actually going to film a special Christmas episode where we are going to be talking about and reviewing a Christmas book, and we are going to be doing Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. This has been a very talked about book on the Book Talk and the Bookstagram and the BookTube. People are eating it up, so I'm excited to read it. It has a great cover. It looks really cute, and it'll be our first like modern romance that we've read and talked about. So we're going to skip forward in time a little bit to discuss that and do a little fun little Christmas episode. And I think that'll be great.
Like
and
the Ghost
then-
of Christmas Future.
Yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Future, give you a little snapshot of how we feel about romance books that are written today. All I can think about, I think I sent you guys a message. There was somebody that was really mad that left a comment about how we hate every book we read, which is not true because we absolutely have read books that we talked about liking.
Does a 2-star? Does 2 stars mean I dislike a book? Okay.
Okay.
But before I could just chalk it up to, well, maybe it's just that we don't like historical books. But now we'll read a present day book, and if we don't like it, then I'm gonna feel. Her comment lives in my head rent free, even though she was wrong. Anyway,
Whoever you are, your name's probably Tracy.
bro. Listen, Tracy Belmanoir, or as I like to call you, Hater Magoo. Anyway, then
Hater's gonna
after
be in the comment being like, "That's my family name."
she's like, Hater Magoo here, and I'm upset again. I feel kind of bad if she does listen, but I feel like she's probably checked out at this point. She's given up.
She hates us, like we hate books apparently. So
She hate listens to this podcast, and I love that for her. Don't forget to like and comment unless you're hate limit listening. Please don't leave a rating if you're hate listening. That's fine. So anyway, after that,
you can leave her. Sorry. Go ahead.
in January, we are going to be jumping forward a little bit, and we are going to be reading a very popular book in the romance genre from 1972 called The Flame and the Flower by Kathleen E. Woodwis. This is considered by most to be the first bodice ripper. And it is very, very highly talked about in the romance genre. Have any of you ever read it?
Mm-mm.
I haven't
No.
even heard of it.
Ooh,
I've
okay.
never heard of it. Yeah,
I'm excited then. Yeah, it's
I'm a fake fan apparently when it comes to romance.
Well, we're learning. Well, we're going through
Okay.
history. So I am excited to read that. And then the last thing I have to mention, so that's in January. And in February, we are going to be doing a live podcast recording of an episode at Love Y'all in Atlanta, Georgia, which is from February 13th to the 15th. So they have kindly let us try to do a live recording of the show. We've never done a live recording before, so we are going to soldier bravely forward. I don't know what that will look like. It may end up, I don't know if the audio is going to be good enough to make it into like an actual podcast episode. It might end up being just like a YouTube thing, but we'll kind of see what the situation is and how that goes. But we're excited to do that. And if you're going to Love Y'all, we would love to see you there and would love to have you come and join our live recording of the podcast. I don't know if we're going to talk about a specific book yet, or if we're just going to talk about the romance genre in general, just to
What
make
should
it
we?
more.
Let's
Yeah.
ask. What should we do?
Yeah, if you guys have a preference, would you like to see us talk about a specific book, or would you like to hear us, like one idea I had is to like go through some romance genre hot takes and talk about those, or talk about just like the romance genre in general as like kind of a panel discussion. So we're still kind of working out the idea of that, but if you have any thoughts or something that you would love to see, please let us know. And of course, if you're coming to Love Y'all, make sure to come to that panel because we would love to see you there. That is everything for this episode. And now I would like each of you to tell us where they can find you wonderful people on the internet if they want to follow your romance book hating journeys from this day forward. Niah?
Contrary to popular belief, I do like things.
That has yet to be seen.
Wow. There are more episodes yet to film. And more books to read. You can find me everywhere at Novel Niah.
Mari?
You can find me at my homepage at marias.bindarybooks.com or everywhere on social media at My Name is Marinas.
Amazing. And Lizzy?
You can find me at Bumblebeezus on TikTok and I think YouTube, or Beezus Books on Instagram.
And I think YouTube. I love that.
Where
You can
where are
find you can find me at my homepage, which is easycat.bindarybooks.com. And you can also find me everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads, and Blue Sky at EasyCat. And with that, we conclude another episode of The Panelists. Thank you so much for watching or listening. You can find and watch this on YouTube at The Panelists Podcast if you want to see our beautiful faces as we talk. If you hate our faces, you can also listen to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And that's a great way to listen and not have to look at us if
How
that's
could
what
they-
you prefer.
How do they hate our faces? Look at us. Oh my
Well,
God.
And just like we have
Like,
faces made for
please.
radio.
we have faces made for radio. So please listen to us at Spotify and Apple Podcasts at the Panelists Podcasts. You can also, if you enjoyed this, please feel free to like and follow and subscribe and leave a comment and leave a review. I don't know if those are all the things you can do in places where you're watching and listening to this, but if you can do any one of those things, please do it. That helps us out a lot. Thank you so much for watching or listening. This is the Panelists Podcast, and we will see you next time.